What's going on, wrestling fans? It is I, Steve O, and welcome to 10 Count. On today's edition, I should have brought my referee shirt, but I brought a referee with me. 3 decades in the business. It's Mike Chioda. How are you doing today?
Man, Steve, I'm great, brother. How you doing, man?
Uh,
Love this show to 10 count, man. I don't know how many times I've counted to 10, but
well, if you watch Sesame Street, I assume you've counted a few times to 10. 1, 2, 3,
that's
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've got to 12 here and there.
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
But it is so good to have you here. I love your backdrop as well. You have so many great memorabilia pieces back there. But getting in
Yeah,
the business, I know for you, Grill Monsoon and his son had a hand in this. How did this all come to be?
yeah, for sure. When I was like 15, 16, I used to work for Gorilla Monsoon, who owned a ring from Vince Senior. So Vince Senior, and then Gorilla owned a territory in New Jersey, South Jersey area, Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania areas and so forth, and up in the Maryland, Salisbury, Maryland, and like everybody had a territory at the time, whether it was Bruno Sammartino, the South had their territories. So when Vince took over, you know, he kind of took over everything at that point. But at the time when I first started, it was the summer times when I was 15, 16, setting up the rings and making $50 for the robes, $50 for the ring, $50 for timekeeping, $50 for playing music, and like $200 a night was like for a 15-year-old, I mean, they got me started, Joey. So, and then here come the programs at that point. And I'm like, well, fuck. I'm like, they told me, Victor's like, you got to sell programs because Tony Chimmel wouldn't sell them. Joey was refereeing at the time, with Dick Worley in the area and Dick Kroll. And I was like, oh man, what am I going to make off of programs? He's like, they were $1. He was like, oh, you're going to make 10 cents off the dollar. I'm like, man, it ain't nothing, I'm like, shit. I'd go out and sell 3,000 programs at the Spectrum or off the boardwalk in Wildwood, New Jersey, or, with Andre the Giant on the cover, and,
Yeah.
Big John Studd, or, Tony Gurria and Rick Martel, and then I'd make $300 on selling programs plus the $200, I was making for the crew stuff, and setting up the ring and during the show, because I would do the programs before the show, and intermission, and do the blowout for a little bit at the end and then come back and tear down. So, it got me hooked. And then I was a machinist for a while in school, a welder and machinist. And I did that. And I was building test missiles for the Navy my senior year, getting out at noon and working all day. And then my dad got sick. At 18, he took a massive stroke. And I asked Gorilla to, for a job back. At the time, Vince had owned everything. He took over all the territories. Gorilla was announcing and doing other things for the company. Joey was still refereeing. And then I went back full time because I had to help out the family. So I went, my career was I wanted to play baseball. So I was a hell of a baseball player, good shortstop, good stick. And it just, wrestling took off, man, after like about 18 and a half, almost 19, it just took off for me. And then I started refereeing a couple of years ago. I did crew and production for 20 some years and refereeing and all that. And then the refereeing took off for 30 some years in the business, so it just worked out great. And yeah, I got to hand it to Joey Morel and Gorilla Monsoon, that's for sure.
Wow.
And the family
So
really took care of me.
So in reality, it seems like you're a great family man, great son as well. You were doing something for your father, for your family,
Oh yeah,
obviously.
yeah. My mom and had two younger sisters at the time. If I was 18, my sister youngest was 13, the other one was 8. So, he took a massive stroke. He kept the family as whole, but, just couldn't provide for the family as well as he did anymore. He couldn't really go back to work or anything. So, yeah, I had to step up
Wow.
and thankful, for WWE and Vince McMahon and everything gave me a hell of a career for 35 years.
Of course. Now, what were your first impressions working for the WWF at the time? Put the F
Oh,
back in just for a minute,
yeah,
because you're talking about 1989 coming in, I believe, is so you have Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior,
right.
Macho Man, Demolition, all these over the top characters. What's your first impressions? Because it's like
Right.
signing up for the circus.
Yeah, well, the first impression was it was amazing. When I was like 13, I went to a baseball camp in Atlanta, and they took us to a wrestling event. And Abdullah the Butcher was the main
Oh,
event,
man.
and he was bleeding all over, juicing, and I'm going, that was like my first wrestling event. And it happened to be, in Atlanta. I'm living in New Jersey, and I'm from New Jersey. And so And then, when I started working when I was 15, it must have been about 82 in the summer times and 83. And when I started full time, it was in 1985,
Oh,
86.
okay. 85. All right.
So yeah,
86.
yeah, 87. I started. Chief Jay made me a referee. A couple years later, he was tired of the New York State Commission referees and all that stuff. And so he said, "Hey, check with Gorilla Monsoon." They said, "Hell yeah, he'd be a good candidate for a referee, and Joey could teach him and help him out," which Joey did as well, and all the talent. So I grew up with the George Animal Steels and all them guys,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Andre, even 85, 86 when I started full time. 89, I made my debut on TV for referee.
Right. 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 Right.
So that was like, you had to pay some dues with crew and referee, and then you had to referee for a while and get used to it and everything. And you had to learn. There's so much to learn in the business. You're not going to grasp this business. There's very few people that grasp it as a wrestler in this business. The Kurt Angles and so forth, that grasp it real quick. And if you're a referee, it takes a while to really learn the business too.
So are you able, as 31 years in the business, even probably more, are you able to see, like you said, Kurt Angle, he seemed to be instantly, I know what I'm doing, I get this, at least on TV. We don't even see what was going on backstage. When you're in the ring as a referee, are you able to look at someone, see him in the ring, and go, this guy has it, this guy doesn't have it?
No doubt, no doubt. You could tell just charisma wise and just the way Kurt used to come, he used to give it 200% every time he came into that ring, whether he was fucking it up or not. But, he learned a lot from everybody, but he grasped it. He just like, I don't know if it was just his collegiate wrestling, of course, but I've seen wrestlers and collegiate athletes and whatever just can't grasp it as fast as Kurt Angle did, and so I've done some incredible matches, with him and Benoit, him and Eddie Guerrero, him and Brock Lesnar, WrestleManias, and the whole angle they went through for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kurt really grasped the business. He was unbelievable, man. He really took it to another level.
Yeah, he's still one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, Mount Rushmore for many different people. But
Right,
when you work for the WWE for so long, you must
right.
have a relationship building with everyone, including Vince McMahon. Do you have a story you can share that you and Vince McMahon either bonded over a moment or a situation? Because again, you just mentioned you were the referee for some high profile matches. And I'm
Right.
guessing when you're put in those positions, Vince McMahon is trusting you to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there.
Right. I believe, we probably bonded when I was about 19 years old, 18 years old when I met Vince and we're at TV or somebody was talking to me. And, and my dad always taught me the same things. He was like, hey, Mike, look me in the eye when you're talking to me. And little things like that. And then there was another time when I was pushing cases during TV, working the crew and everything, and I was smoking a cigarette. You could smoke in the arenas back in them days. And then he comes through the curtain, and I just puffed a big cloud of smoke in his face, man, and he ate smoking it. I looked at him, I froze like a son of a bitch. He looked at me with his eyes wide open. And I just threw the cigarette down, started jumping on it like goddamn cigarettes. Oh shit. I had to do something to pop him, and he kind of smirked, and then he gave me this long lecture for like 30 minutes. But
Wow.
we bonded like little things like that one. But Vince is great. He was a great boss, and he respected me as far as my refereeing. It's when you get put in a lot of positions, like myself, like Mike Chioda didn't go in these production meetings or didn't pitch to go, oh, can I have this match, Rock, or can I have this match, Hunter, or this and that. It was laid out in the production office. You had the top of the tops always thinking, okay, we're going to put this match together. Okay, now we got that match. All right, who's our referee? So they would decide that, whether it was Michael Hayes, Pat Patterson back then, Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn, the whole, Paul Heyman. Guys that I go back years ago, even with, so it was cool. And then you'd have talent asking for you to do their matches. So that was huge, when you had talent asking for you, then this. And so it was a great honor, because I never tried to sneak my way into certain fucking matches or anything. I didn't have to, you just do your job, do it right, and don't go into business for yourself as a referee and, just call it down the middle and you'll get the spots if you're good enough.
Of course, and definitely you were definitely good enough. And you've worked with
Phenomenal.
Hogan and Savage and Cena and Batista, Shawn Michaels,
Right,
Undertaker.
right.
Name everyone that has ever
Yeah,
done
Ric
something in the
Flair,
wrestling
everything.
business.
Yeah,
You have been there. Do you have a favorite that you like to be in the
man,
ring
it's
with?
I there's so many. The Bret Harts. I was always, it was great to be in the ring with Bret, Shawn Michaels, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, even back in the day, it was great to be in the ring with Andre, George the Animal Steel. So many different characters, so many different people. Like, The Undertaker was it was unbelievable. You'd get goosebumps just every entrance from the Undertaker. Just him coming down the ring and getting to see the way the crowd reacts and his badass entrances and Stone Cold, the big pop, and even back in the day, like Big John Studd, and you work with guys with King Kong Bundy and all these other guys, and it was phenomenal, man. It was a phenomenal run, and I don't think it's hard to say, but I hope some referees could say that 20 years down the road that they work with some incredible talent from 20 years from now, and say that. But it's good. It's going to be hard because I've seen so many flan, the Greg the Hammer Valentines, the Rick Rudes, and all those guys, Phineas and the Godwins, and all the
The guy,
Bushwhackers,
good old Godwins.
the Bushwhackers entertaining, Duke the Drozer, the Dumpster Drosy. It was just so many guys back then.
You did
But
work in every era too. As people label
yeah,
it, the golden era, the new
yeah,
generation, the attitude, ruthless, PG. You've been
yeah.
you've been involved with every era. Is there an era that you particularly enjoy? Because I know as a fan, at least for me, I grew up in the new generation era, but yet the attitude era spoke to a 13-year-old me, as in
Right.
you see skinny clad women, middle finger saying suck it. Like, is there an era that
Tits
you
and ass
said,
all over the
God
place.
damn, this is so much fun.
I'd have to say the Attitude Era, man. The Attitude Era in the '90s was great. In the '90s and the early 2000s and everything, coming up to 2010, pretty much. The '80s was phenomenal with Hulk Hogan. It was always a sad thing because when Hulk Hogan sold, man, on the outside of the ring, little kids would be crying through the barricades and the bicycle racks and just tears. And I'd be like, oh my God, it's not real. I feel like saying, hey, kids, it's not real. Stop crying,
Oh
And then you
no.
got the 80, 90 year olds with the chicken heads going, you suck. You didn't see this. Yeah, like freaking out. And so, I mean, but the '90s were great. That's when, all the girls were flashing their tits at the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Tits and ass were all over the place. Triple H and DX and all them guys would go out and say, hey, lift that shirt up. And the girls would go, oh, shit.
No kidding. Yeah.
And
I,
there's always a lot of girls at the end of the shows, man. There's always a lot of fans at the end of the nights at the hotels and bars and having fun. They were like glorified rock stars, the wrestlers, that's for sure.
100%. I love Duke to Dumpster Drosy, but when you walk through an airport as Stone Cold Steve Austin or DX or
Right,
Kane or Mankind during that particular time, I always go back to the era of like, there's always going to be an object people buy at a gas station that is so popular the gas station wants to sell it too. As
right,
in, I would go into a gas station as a little child with my father. There's an Austin 316 shirt. Okay. And
right,
then as
right.
the years would go on, Beanie Babies, fidget spinners, random objects. But for so long, for like 5 years, it was WWF merchandise, even
Yeah.
NWO
I
shirts.
mean,
And to me, that's when you are no longer just like wrestling. You are in mainstream. Everyone's talking about you, and you being involved with that. That has got to be something you could always hang your cap on.
it was amazing. And, it's not just around this country. Like, I've been to almost 60 different countries and a lot of countries over and over. Australia, England, Ireland, here, there. I mean, and Italy, every little town in Germany and big cities in these countries. And I mean, wrestling was popular everywhere, man. It was just huge. And I mean,
Indeed.
it was like certain places like Bret Hart was so over in Germany. This one was so over here. And it was just, I mean, we're all over the place and selling out houses all over the world. That's something. If I were to play baseball or anything, you would have never even got to do that, like travel all over the world like that, because wrestling is the only place. Like some people, like you'll say, oh, you traveled all over, like you'll talk about traveling and this and that, and they'll go, well, who'd you work for, the government, or did you work the military, or did you work for? Oh, no, no. Military doesn't even travel that much.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And when you get to go to these places, I know obviously you're busy working, and the past
Mhm.
couple of years I've been traveling to all these events, going to wrestling, but yet same time for you, are you able to actually travel? You go
Yes.
to Greece. Are you
Right.
visiting
Yes.
locations?
Yes. You get to do all that. Like when you did crew and you did refereeing at the same time, you'd be at the buildings like pretty much all day. But when you were crew, you'd fly in a couple days early to make sure all the equipment's there in Europe and all these other places to make sure it's there. You'd be there 3 days early, so you would get to do all your stuff within 3 days. You make sure all the ring parts are there and everything that doesn't need to be shipped over at the last minute. And then you get times at nighttime. And after I got done the crew, which was about I'd probably say about 2000, maybe five or something like that. You would get there as a referee and you'd have you'd get to the town that night, that late night, you'd get up, you'd have all day from 8, 9 in the morning till 5, 6 o'clock till the bus leaves for the arena to go sightsee everywhere, castles here, there. And then you get your nightlife when you get out, from the arena. You always had nightlife too. So it was
Like,
awesome, man. There's plenty of partying time if you want to make it and sightsee. But sightseeing is the way to go. I mean, just definitely get out there and see so much because I always took it like, when's the next time we're going to be back in Sydney, Australia, or when's the next time we're going to be back here? We may never be back to in South Africa or somewhere.
yeah.
And I always took it like that. So I just always wanted to see as much as I could. That's for sure.
That's amazing. And it's funny as this whole time we've been talking, I can't stop staring at Eva Playboy, Sable Playboy in the
Ah,
corner there.
yeah, I got
I
got a
love it.
couple of them. I got the China one down there too,
Oh yeah,
signed,
yeah.
Sable signed,
Yep,
chairs.
chairs.
Yeah, I got
I love it.
the whole room's like loaded up. It's
Of course, yeah. If we
I
were
got
actually in my
tons of
studio,
stuff.
I
Yeah.
would see, but I don't have what you have. You have quite an amazing collection there. A
Yeah,
Raw's War. You got the
it's
shirts.
yeah, I got it. The whole room is just lovely. The wife gave me one room. That's it, man. So she was
You got upstairs. I'm in the basement. All right. I had to take my basement and make it look pretty and paint it and hang the right things. And
yeah,
so
I still got so much shit I got to get rid of, man. I got like 60 pay-per-view chairs from here, and I'm
oh
trying
my.
just
Well,
trying
I
to
will
get rid
take them all off your hands. Don't you
of
worry.
it.
Don't
Oh
you
man.
worry. Uh, but so you've done so much, but yet, and you worked with so many great talent. Is there someone that you were in the ring with and you saw your name next to him and you said, "Oh God, I gotta referee this versus match"?
No, not really, man. I mean, not really. Sometimes uh I was always a little stressed getting in the ring with Sean because he was such a perfectionist. But I like that because he always wanted me to ref and he loved how I counted the false counts, and it was very important to him. And I used to, I remember him coming in when him and Marty came into the business,
Mm,
and I used to do hour marathons with him and the Rougeau brothers and Bulldogs and all that. They used to have the tag team marathons, best out of three falls for an hour. I mean, it was never like a talent where he was horrible and I just didn't feel like, Mike Iron Sharp. I remember Mike Iron Mike Sharp. That guy was so funny because he used to make me laugh in the ring.
right.
I mean, so many guys in different ways. I remember like somebody Virgil going, "Hey Mike, grab a hold, grab a hold." Mike kept glomming him, fucking beating him with that fucking leather around his wrist. And he's like, "I don't know any fucking holds, Virgil." It's like, I
Oh
mean,
my
just
God.
there was so many. Maybe Mega Man Max McGee was probably the worst, but he was from Canada, I think, man. That was like in the 80s. But
I I was gonna say Max Mini maybe biting your ass would have
Max,
been something. Would have been something I'd say. Listen, can you stop just biting my ass? I know it's
we
we're
we used to have fun with those guys so
I
much,
know.
man. Max Mini and Lord Humpledink or whatever, all those little, like those wrestlers were so much fun to work with. So many little referee spots they'd mess with you with. So it
Oh
really,
yeah.
definitely entertaining. I wish they would bring that back, to be honest with you. Very entertaining.
There was a strange in I think in on SmackDown a couple like maybe a decade now ago
Right.
they tried to do that. I remember
Yeah.
it being an initiative on TV. They even brought in like an extra. It was like Teddy Long was a GM, and I think they had an extra person as like a
Right.
liaison, and he brought in people to try to fill in the gaps. And
Yeah. I
I
mean,
tried.
Eddie Cologne and worked with, mascot. What was his name? God, Jesus, El Torito.
Oh yeah.
So El Torito came in and they started bringing in some other guys, and I thought they were going to build it back up there, but they really didn't do anything with it. So
No, I talked to Hornswoggle about that when
yeah,
he thought
yeah,
him and El Torito's match for the WLC at a TLC pay-per-view was supposed to be a joke. And obviously it was supposed to be, he believes, but yet they stole the show that night. So joke's
right.
on them because that was the best match
That
of
was
that
good.
pay-per-view. So, you
Right.
disagree if you want to, but I still think it's the best match on that card. Though in refereeing, we always see the referee bump. And
Right.
I know Tim White, unfortunately, he
Oh,
suffered an
yes.
injury in a Hell in the
Right.
Cell, hurting his arm. And as a referee, you need your arms to do that job more so than anything. What's the worst bump that you took that even was like, dude, like that was too much?
Um, there's quite a few bumps, but I mean, I can't list them all, but I mean, there was a couple of them where Taker, I remember he had to throw me up over, he pressed me over the top rope inside the ring to the outside, and Sean was supposed to catch me, but the timing was off, and I just bloop, I just hit the ground. And Sean turned around, I was like, sorry, bro, fuck. And I'm like, oh. But the worst was Ahmed Johnson throwing me from like this. He was so blown up working with Triple H. And I remember he had to press me and throw me onto Triple H on the outside. But he just was so blown up. He tried to throw me from almost like the center of the ring. And he threw me. I hit the top rope, spun like I went flipping, hit the end of the ring, hit the floor. Couldn't feel my body for a little bit. I was in the hospital for a couple of days. Had a stinger. Couldn't feel anything for about a couple of minutes, but it was nervous. It was the longest couple of minutes of my life. Because all I remember is Triple H in my face on Coyote, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Hold on. We're getting an ambulance here right away, blah, blah. And I was like, fuck, I can't feel nothing. It all came back, so it was cool. But that was probably the worst bump.
Oh
I've
my
had
God.
broken noses before and all that other stuff, but that was probably the worst bump.
Well, yeah, the fact that you couldn't feel your appendages probably was,
Yeah.
the worst bump. Broken noses, I guess you can fix those, but
Right. You can.
it's hard to fix. It is possible with medical science,
Yeah.
but yet
Yeah.
Ahmed Johnson and the idea of what you just said, like trying to whip you from the middle to over the top rope, you hitting the top rope and just spinning out.
Yeah. I mean,
Like, how do you land? How do you land properly? You can't.
couldn't land properly. You couldn't take your own bump. You couldn't. It was out of control. I couldn't do anything because it was almost from the center, and he was like kind of trying to get me up, and he was going through a 15-20 minute match, and as big as he is, sometimes they get exhausted and blowing up a little bit, and so it just he couldn't get me over the top that night, So I mean, hey, shit happens. If he would have got closer to the rope, yeah, he could have probably got me over, but So, but yeah, shit happens in the wrestling business. But thank God I'm all right, But that's probably
Yes.
about the worst.
Oh my God.
My teeth have been in Randy Orton's head. I remember one time, like I meant to go pull them off, and I went down, and he came up. My front two teeth were right in his head, right at the top of his head, and he started gushing the blood. He's like looking at me. He goes, "You all right?" I'm like, "My teeth still there?" It's a TV match. And he's like, "I'm like, is my teeth still there?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Holy shit, you're juicing from the top of your head all." He had blood dripping down his face. I'm like, what the fuck? I had to go get teeth fixed, get some crowns because they're all cracked and stuff. But hey, like I said, those things can be fixed.
I guess so. But that's a bit of a hey, Randy, what's going on? Oh shit, my mouth. And then suddenly, let me pulled my two front teeth out of you and pop them back in.
That's it.
That's got to be a bit of a problem, I would imagine, especially being on the road trying to find a dentist in the town you're.
Yeah, I had to wait till I got home. So
yeah. Oh, that sounds even better. That sounds even better.
And he's like, "Oh, we got to do all four because if I just do two, it's the other side ones, the side ones are gonna look funny. So I got to do all four." I'm like, "You're fucking kidding me."
Just take my money. Just take my money.
Yeah, crack two and replace four. I was like,
fuck. My God. Oh my God. Now, here's a quick question. As a referee, are you underneath the guise of a contracted worker or do you have insurance?
I was an employee for many years,
okay.
like for 20-something years, but then the last 15 years I was a subcontractor, 1099.
Okay.
And it covered everything. I mean, if I got hurt, like, when I had soldier surgery, roughly about 3.5 years ago, the rotator cuff and the bicep tears, Dugas, they sent me down to Dugas in Alabama. about 6 years ago. I had to get an ACL cadaver put in my right knee. And they sent me down to the best Dugas, with St. Andrews in Alabama
Yeah.
University. So they still always sent me to the best, and they always took care of everything, 100%.
Oh, good, good. Okay, yeah,
The
because
noses, the teeth, they took care of everything.
oh, good, good. I'm glad they took care of your teeth.
Yeah, they did.
That
They
sounds
didn't,
pricey.
they didn't pay for my hotels though.
No, no, they didn't pay for any of your hotels. Oh my God.
Hotels and cars. Now, when you're a subcontractor like the talent, the hotels and cars are on you. So,
Who'd you travel with?
man, tons of people. Always, Jack Swagger at the time for a long time, R Truth, Eki, which was Umanga
Yeah.
when he was still alive, and Rey Mysterio always, and just Test when he was alive. God bless. Years ago, he used to travel with Test, and a lot of guys, used to travel a lot of talent. Viscera, unfortunately, a lot of guys have passed. God bless. So I mean, but I have a lot. I have a collection of photos and stuff like that of great memories around the world, which keeps me in tune with those guys that have passed away.
That's outstanding to hear because I know, over the years we've lost so many great people.
Yeah,
We as some people we only know them as professional wrestlers on TV, and then they're people, they're human
right,
beings, and
right.
you're driving around the country, the world with these individuals, and you have road stories, you have bonding moments. So it's good to hear that you're keeping close to Test and Viscera and Umaga and other talents because they are part of a lot of people's memories in childhood, but they're more so to you, family and friend.
No doubt, no doubt.
So that's good.
Travel, you travel with somebody, you go eat, you work out, you hang out, you drive with them, you fly with them, you room with them, man. You become good friends, and on the road, that's for sure.
Yeah, good old Umaga.
Yeah.
Speaking of, interesting times in wrestling, the Montreal screw job, I feel like, is something that's talked about often, but it's never
Hmm.
really talked about of what it affected other people. Because we always talk about Sean, Brett, Vince, Earl
Right,
Hebner. Okay.
right.
Earl Hebner was a referee. It falls on him as well. But what did that mean for people like you? Is there suddenly this like glancing eye of can I trust all referees now? Is there some sort of misconception there of mistrust?
There is about mistrust from everybody going around. Like, I mean, Taker had heat with Vince. Taker was hot. Like there was certain cliques at that time. Like that didn't really get along. And Taker had a lot of respect for Brett at that time. Brett was a good family man too, and things that happened. Just there was, I'm sure, trust issues all the way around. I mean, I remember me and Tony Timmel were stuck getting changed, and we were stuck in this room where Taker and a couple of boys came up with him, and he came up on Vince, and they were having some words, and we're stuck in this room in the open door. We didn't want to move because we don't want to be seen. Shit, we're up against the wall. We're like, Chip was like, "What's he saying?" I'm like, "Fucking Taker's hot." I'm like, I don't know what he's saying, but he's hot. And we're not trying to get busted in the fucking because they're right there in the hallway. Um, it was just Brett was going around kicking doors down, trying to kick in doors. He's pissed off backstage, uh, looking for who.
Of course.
So I remember then Vince came back and Brett hit Vince, in the hallway. Game and it was a lot of mistrust everywhere, but business went on. I mean, it was a shitty way. You're looking at Brett at that time. I want to say, God, I mean, if I started in 85, 86, like he was in the business, I mean, 15 years, I think, for WWE, WWF at the time, like working
Yeah.
hard, and making the company money. I mean, yeah, I mean, here's like, there's a lot of pictures up here. Like, let me see if I can even show you this one. There's one in a corner there. Over in the corner, it's Cape Town, South Africa, the front page. Brett
Oh, yep.
Morgan Baker, 1996 in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm refereeing that match. There's another one in South Africa up there. Like, working with all those guys, and those guys had tremendous respect for each other. And that was 1997, maybe South Africa. So we did two tours in 96 and 97. And that was right almost before the screw job, that South Africa. And then, Brett was running an angle with Taker for the longest time. It was hard because, there was times where Sean didn't want to do the job for, Brett, And then Brett was like, well, I'm not dropping this strap here in fucking Canada for him, like,
Yeah.
and, them two weren't getting along at the time, I see them in interviews now and everything. I'm sure bygones are bygones, of course, after all these years.
Yeah.
But it kind of hurt because, to see Brett finish off his career with WWF and then go to WCW, and he really didn't do anything too much down there in WCW,
No.
And then never really came back and had to really, I thought, to go out he should have had. Neither did I. So I mean, hey, it happens to us,
Right. I guess we don't get to choose our endings
That's correct, right?
on the path that we've been living. But with you as a referee, was there an issue after, like, move past that night of Montreal? Is there an issue with referees in general of people going like, well, now I'm in this match and I'm the Intercontinental Champion. Is my hero going to screw me over here? Like, did that turn into an issue, or that's just nothing?
No, it was just it was one time scenario where Brett and Sean wasn't getting
Okay.
along. I mean, during that day, Brett had asked me, did they come up to you and ask you to do anything? And I said, no, Brett, nobody's talked to me at all, And I did see Earl talking to Briscoe before the match. Oh, he's over there, and this one's a little private conversations. I knew something was going down. I didn't know how it was going down, but it went down.
So everyone was very
aware. It was very tense that day. Yeah, it was
a
very tense day, tense night, tense afterwards for a while, quite a while, and but business moved on. I mean, they looked at Sean as the face of the company moving forward with DX and all that stuff. So,
and unfortunately, he got hurt though. About
Yeah.
a few months. He was hurt, after Royal Rumble '98, hitting that back on the casket, which led to him eventually leaving WrestleMania 14.
Stone
And
Cold.
It was Stone Cold, which you were the referee for, and yet to me, it's the Montreal Screwjob. It's like, man, if we only could have foresight and see that Sean's gonna get hurt in about 2 months, let's not do this with Brett. Can we just figure something out? But obviously, you can't predict the future. No one can predict the future, unless you're the Wizard, or Johnny Carson. But maybe you could do that. But
you always think when you lose a guy like Bret Hart, and you lost a guy like this guy, and you think, oh my God, like in the '90s when everybody's making that transition to WCW, and fucking here comes Nitro, fucking taking off like you wouldn't believe, and
no kidding.
I thought, like, holy shit, are we gonna be working for Ted Turner next? Like at one point we almost thought like we were gonna be put out of business and working for Ted Turner, but that things and Vince turned shit around again, So Vince is, I don't care what they say about Vince. They can call him a pain in the ass, and he's coming back and do this, and he's doing it. Where's he ever failed his business? As far as he never put it in bankruptcy, that's for damn sure.
Right.
He went from a multi-millionaire to a multi-billionaire. So I mean, I get maybe they're saying, oh, Vince is frustrating now, but I mean, Vince has always made the right moves, as far as with the wrestling business.
Right. I think everyone always believes that they have the right answer. And then, but the person who's been making the right decisions, one decision, they're like, oh, how could he do that? But what about all the right ones he made? Well, yeah, but that one time, yeah, but that's one time. What about all the right ones? You're only looking at the negative versus the giant pile of positives over here. Right. Unfortunately, were you shocked when the WWE sold to Endeavor? Because I know I was.
Yeah, well, I was surprised how much they got. How much I mean, during the pandemic, and I got released and all this, and I think it was like, I think Vince went under, like Forbes came out and said he had reached under $1 billion again. He went under $1 billion.
Yes.
And then he look how fast he bounced back up. Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, what, 9.6 he sold? But I mean, the company was worth, then he did the Peacock thing and all this other stuff with the network and then Peacock, and then the way he's just making transitions and making the right moves. I mean, now it's worth billions. Unbelievable.
It's crazy. And
there's nobody in the world that does what WWE does, man. I mean, they entertain and put on a hell of a show, especially at WrestleManias and all the pay-per-views, and
oh my God, yes,
and so on.
Yeah. People will always randomly stick their nose up at wrestling, but I don't think they understand that how much business is being made, how much money is being put into people's pockets, merchandise sales, putting food on your table, building houses. Like the thing is with wrestling, I love it so much, and I'll always defend it to the end of time. But when people ever try to go like, well, it's fake. Oh, really? The show? You think Iron Man's real? You think
Yeah,
Batman's
yeah,
real?
right,
You think
right,
that show of dragons is real? No.
right.
Do I find you and be like, hey, did you know this is fake? Like, no, who does that?
Do you think that Boston Bruin games was real? Game 7?
Oh, that's not
Just
nice. That
kidding.
is not
I'm
nice.
a Penguin fan. I know.
Oh
Don't worry.
my
I didn't make it, so
Lord.
I can't talk. But I felt bad for the Bruins. I felt.
That's what it
Uh,
felt like watching it.
I
God, you're so
mean,
mean.
when the Penguins are out, I root Tampa Bay, the Lightnings. Because I live here in Tampa, so and they got knocked out.
So
So
you're the healed referee. You're Nick Patrick. That's who you are. That's who you are. That's what you've done to me here. No.
just kidding,
Uh,
Steve.
thank you. Thank you for breaking my heart. Though
Well, you still
I
got the
don't know how to come
Celtics.
back. I
You
don't know.
got the
Yeah. Oh,
Celtics.
great. Yeah. Well, you know what? I have a bad feeling about that too. Okay. There's a curse, and the Bambino is back, and it's in the Boston Garden, no longer in Fenway. It's moved over. It's a curse of Tom Brady. In reality, it's a curse of Tom Brady.
I hear
Okay.
you.
It's
I hear
his
you.
stupid fault. But Jesus, you hurt me. You hurt me deep. You cut me deep,
Stop
Mike.
it.
All right, fine. Let's move on. Let's talk about how great you are. You've been involved with so many great matches, WrestleMania main events, from even that match with the 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon, where he beat him and started his career. Is there a match that jumps out to you as the one that you go, damn, like I am beyond proud, and I will tell everyone that I was involved with this match till the end of time?
I mean, now I really hate to say because there's so many incredible matches I've done in my career, and I don't want to take anything away from any talent, but it's in different categories. You want to talk about the icon Rock and Hogan match with just the reaction of the Canadians, the Toronto crowd, and Canada is just such a huge wrestling, and they really have a lot of respect for wrestling. A lot of great wrestlers have come out of Canada, and the way they didn't forget about Hogan when he came out with that NWO entrance, and it was just I had goosebumps. I mean, 2002, I'm in the business, 15 years, been refereeing since '87, and I'm fucking marking out in there. I'm marking out.
Yeah,
goosebumps on the entrance. The way the crowd, 68,000 people. Now we've done larger crowds before, after that, but this crowd at 68 made it sound like 200,000 people in that dome. And that's a big dome. So even just with the shove off, the face off, I marked out the shove off, the tackle, the Hulk up. It was just the way that it was just fucking unbelievable. Now, was that the most, and did I have to stress and make sure my bump was right? I had to make the timing when I came back in the ring to make sure I was there for Rock to take that shoulder tackle. And they just, that match, they hit it out of the ballpark, the icon against icon, and I always say, like, Hogan passed the torch. I mean, Andre passed the torch to Hulk Hogan when Joey Morello was the referee. And then Hogan finally passed the torch to The Rock, and then The Rock takes the torch and he goes to Hollywood a couple of years later. I mean, it was like, fuck. So, I mean, but there was so many that's not the best technical match I've ever done. There's matches with Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and like I said, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, Batista, Hunter, and so many other matches that I've done that are just Stone Cold and Shawn, The Rock and Stone Cold. And the first 10 minutes I did when I got the chair shot at WrestleMania and Earl took over. There's just so many matches that are just different ways that are incredible to me.
Yeah.
You want to talk about biggest pop and the biggest reaction, probably Rock and Hogan.
Yeah. That match, you can just close your eyes and listen to it, and it's electric. Like you can't. And the problem with this too is some people are like, well, what's a great wrestling match? And it all determines on how you feel about what you consider great wrestling. Catch can moves. This one, it's the audience. The audience, a punch, a kick, a back rake. Those are people are going crazy. It was nuts. It was outstanding. And you're in the ring and the energy, you can feel it. Like that must be what, if you're going to get high and do drugs, that must be what it's like, because that's the high. That's the high.
It is. I mean, so many incredible matches with Shawn Michaels and Undertaker and just all. I just can't say that,
there's one.
Rock and Hogan. Yeah, I just can't say one because there's so many matches there's technical matches, there's high flying matches, there's sometimes some of these matches back in the day used to come to the end of the point of WrestleMania with a great fucking storyline for the
Yeah,
last year or so. But now the storylines are very, much shorter. They do so many pay-per-views. You don't have much time to tell a story. I think in 1 month to the next pay-per-view, 2 months.
yep.
I'd like to see him build a storyline up between two guys like Rock and Stone Cold. I believe they didn't touch for a year when they got to WrestleMania, and that fucking crowd was buzzing. That was
Yeah.
another hot crowd.
Yeah, there's been some incredible storylines. One that will always jump out to my mind, and with referees, the
Mm.
Earl Hebner, Dave Hebner,
Oh,
the
yeah.
how
Hulk
much of
Hogan.
the plastic surgery cost, and
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
double referee
Double, yeah,
screwing
yeah.
Hogan out of the championship. Of
Right.
course, Macho Man and Hogan and Miss Elizabeth, WrestleMania 5, the Mega Powers explode.
Yeah,
The build up to these matches took a year. The Macho
yeah.
Man Hogan was 1 year from WrestleMania 4 to
Right.
WrestleMania 5,
5. Yep.
both in the Trump Plaza.
Yep.
And it was a culmination of a storyline being built up between friends that turned into enemies because of lust in his eyes.
Yeah.
And so that I agree with you on that. Even Cena versus Rock, I felt like they took time with for once in a lifetime because it was a whole year. Like,
Yeah.
and Rock was filming movies, so what do you do?
Yeah.
But there, yeah.
WrestleMania WrestleMania 4 or 5 were so cool for me because I was in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, living outside Cherry Hill, New Jersey, in Willingboro, and 4 and 5 was in Atlantic City. So it was phenomenal. I remember so many nights I had to sit in the pay-per-view trucks. They were scared about somebody damaging the fucking pay-per-view trucks.
Wow, really?
And yeah, like the satellite trucks, they were scared about, somebody damaging, it was, and I don't know if it was like the WCW thing with, and
I think it
I,
was.
well, we had to take turns to sit there. I remember sitting in the satellite truck from like midnight to like 7, 8 in the morning, and just watching the strippers and come out of the clubs and and people going in and out of the strip club, hookers walking by. I'm like, everybody's having fun with me sitting in this satellite truck. I'm like, how did I get this job? I'm like,
That's insane. I've never heard that story before of having to protect your pay-per-view satellite trucks to make sure Jim Crockett Promotions wasn't going to
well,
affect the pay-per-views in the WCW and the NWAs because it's time the WWE F is running pay-per-views, and sometimes Crockett in WCW or NWA are running pay-per-views or events on the same day. WrestleMania 4 and the first Clash of Champions, I believe, are on the same exact day, if I have my dates
yeah,
correct. So
yeah,
there's the fact that you had to sit in a truck to protect it. Do you have a weapon?
yeah. No, no, didn't have a weapon, man. But no, just a pack of cigarettes. That's it, and just
Oh no,
chilling
Vince.
and
I hope
some
hopefully
food.
Vince didn't see you.
No, just chilling. I mean, and you don't know if it's a location, Atlantic City, could, in the middle of the night, because it just, you just can't get those satellite trucks just like that back then. I'm sure maybe today you can get a satellite truck to replace the satellite truck quicker, but back then those trucks were important, especially when you
Wow.
had the WrestleMania coming up.
That's insane. I've never heard that story before. That is amazing. I
Yeah,
love it so much that there's like gang war mob
yeah, like
happening here between
uh,
companies.
everybody had to take turns. Like I had to spend like 12. I had like to shift from like 11 to 6 in the morning or something like that. Somebody had another shift. Somebody had the other shift. So it wasn't
My
just
God.
me.
Oh
I had
God.
the shittiest shift, that's for sure.
I can imagine nighttime Atlantic City watching all the hookers. You brought up the hookers walking by, and they're like, "Hey there," and you're like, "Hi, I would love to hang out with you, but I can't." Truck, want to come in?
Right?
Come in the truck if you want.
You got that right.
That you've done so much in your career, and and in 2020 you were laid off by the WWE after
Right.
almost 31 years in the business.
35 with them, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yet
35.
the thing with that is budget costs. We kept hearing about online budget costs,
Yeah,
budget
I don't think it
costs.
was a budget cost, so
What was it then?
don't know. Don't know to this day. I mean, yeah, I was making really good money, man. I was, I'll tell you straight out, I was probably making 240 a year. I was making 240, but I've been there for 35 years at the time. I was out on surgery.
Mm,
I was out hurt. And I made the transition. I moved to Houston in '07, came here in 2019, waited about a year for a house to be built, got here in October 2019. Then I flew to Alabama once I went to closing on my house here in Tampa, went, got the surgery, came home, rehabbed here for almost 6 months. I was ready for WrestleMania, but then the COVID hit. I didn't get a call. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But, when we look at it, like Tony Chimmel and I, Tony got released too. He was with the company 38 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just no reason, no why, no nothing. They said budget costs, but we didn't. Come on, the company. I think 6 months later, like they had their best quarter in like so many years or something, and did great. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it wasn't just me, but
Oh,
yeah,
of course.
people like Tony Chimmel. I remember talking to Chrono, and I said, "Hey, Chrono, what the fuck?" I said, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!" Like, and I know he felt bad, and he didn't know what to say. But then I said one thing to him, and he goes, "Mike, look, it's not just this. It's you, Tony Chimmel, Tom Carlucci, John D'Amico, this one." And I'm like, "Oh, so everybody over 30 fucking years plus with the company, it just,
Mm.
like." So that's where you're going with this. It wasn't really a fucking budget cut, like because he's mentioning three other people in three other different departments, So, and I'm thinking, okay,
So it's
but
more. It sounds like an age thing more of and you can get someone, unfortunately, to do your job cheaper. I'm guessing.
I could have well been because I had talked to Hunter and we, I remember a few years prior to that, Hunter said, hey, I don't want to see you ref until you're 60 years old or 65 years. I said, no, I don't want to do that either. I said, man, he goes, I was hoping to find another transition to it. That's why I moved to Tampa to be closest to the PC.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to be down at the PC, I can always drive an hour and 15 minutes down to the PC and train or do whatever they needed me to, or do whatever was needed on the road in another position. You only have about thousands of positions in the company, whether it's on the road or in the office or whatever. So, Tim White made major transitions and he got let go too. If you don't remember, Laurinaitis let him go years ago for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he came back to Providence, Rhode Island. God bless him. I love him to death, miss him. And I'm so happy for him, the Hall of Fame and everything,
Yeah.
which is well deserved, man. From taking care of Andre. He did multiple things in his company, taking care of Andre for maybe 8+ years. Uh, like being an agent, doing merchandise. I remember he used to do merchandise and certain things for the company years ago, driving trucks, doing whatever. And then he went to refereeing for many years. Then he became an agent again, and then he became, then he would do promos like just he would do like publicity things with the talent and so forth. After he came back, and I remember he came back and he said, I said, Timmy, you coming back to work for us or what? And he was like, well, I'm gonna have a meeting with Vince today. I said, no shit, you got a meeting with Vince? I said, yeah. So I said, great, man. I said, good luck with everything. And he came out and got his job back, because I guess he, talked to Vince and how many years, and he's like, hey, and then Vince gave him his job back. That was awesome. And
It's
then he
awesome to
was
hear.
able to, yeah, and then he was able to work for WWE for quite a while until he passed, but that's what he loved and enjoyed. He was going nuts at home, sitting home at the friendly tap, I'm sure.
Getting
And
destroyed by the APA every other
yeah,
week.
yeah. But so but it's it's just there's no hard feelings. I wish I could do something else for the company or something like that or whatever. I mean, I thought I was gonna, hopefully work this company until my time ran out, but
Right.
that didn't happen. So I mean, it didn't happen for Tony Chimmel, didn't happen for me. So and John D'Amico got his job back. They actually called him back and got his job back, which was cool.
But yeah,
But
that was
I
a
don't
shocking moment in 2020.
yeah, I don't know if you ever remember Mark Gayton. You remember Mark Gayton,
Oh yeah,
timekeeper?
of course.
Remember him? All right, great friend, everything, good guy, hard worker. We traveled the roads in the 80s and 90s and 2000s and did crew stuff at the warehouse in Connecticut and so much. Me, him, and Tony Chimmel. And Mark used to come on the road with our ring crew because we were the one-stop shop ring crew. Set up the rings, play the music, do this. We were, Chimmel was a ring announcer. I was a referee. We both drove the trucks. We both did this. We did everything, So, and Mark Eaton used to travel with our crew a lot because he was in Pennsylvania. We were in South Jersey. One day they came up, security guy Jim, and he's still there, works for Vince. And he said, Mike, what did Mark Eaton do? And I said, no, I don't know, nothing. What does Mark ever do but friggin' work hard all day long? And he was in the production. He goes, I got to escort him out. I'm like, what? And this was El Paso at a TV taping in SmackDown. And I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. For what? I'm like, fired? escort fired? It's like, yeah, I think so. So escort him, and that was the end of Mark Gayton. And when nobody knew what they ever done. I mean, they paid him for a while, which was great, which they paid me for a while, but no reason, no rhyme, no nothing. Why?
So no one, did you ever
30
find
years.
out what happened?
Mark didn't know. He still doesn't know to this day. I still
Still doesn't
talk to him
know.
once in a while. Yeah. Still don't know really. No.
Wow.
Mm-mm.
In,
You can
that's interesting.
it is. It is.
Because again, as years have gone on, you always hear it's
Mhm.
kind of like ghost tales where you hear stories that you're like,
Mhm.
I can't confirm these stories because I don't
Right.
know. You
Right.
only read about them randomly, so you're like, I can't really. For instance, the layoff of you was budget costs. Okay,
Right.
well, I'm talking to you right now, and you're like, budget costs. Like, I don't understand. And like that's the thing is at the time when you let go, it wasn't just you. It was like 15 people.
Right.
And then
Right.
about 4 months later, it was another 15 people. Then after that, it was another 15 people. It was a crazy amount of people being laid off all at once. And the idea, at least in my brain, in a lot of people's brains, is stock here. Our quarterly earnings are coming up. So
Mm-hmm.
how do we make it
Mm-hmm.
look like to our
Right.
stockholders we have more money than we actually do? Well,
Right.
lay off a referee who unfortunately is making a good living and lay off 15
Right.
more people. Suddenly we have 10, 15, $20 million we didn't have before. And now
Right.
look at it. We show our stockholders, they're like, oh, very impressive, very impressive. And
Yeah.
I think that's where I think this might have gone.
Yeah, that roster they let go was nowhere near the 10, 15 million. That's for sure, though.
Well, some of them
when
were not making
when
10,
when
15
Brock
now.
when Brock Lesnar didn't work out his contract, yeah, that was millions down
That's
there.
true. That's true. Like
That
some
was
people I
saving
was
millions.
shocked to see, like I remember Braun Strowman or
But
Bray
Brock Lesnar,
Wyatt
yeah,
and
yeah.
people like that. I was like, damn, those guys must be making close to $1 million a year and more maybe in off merchandise sales as
And
well.
yeah, but some talent was making an incredible amount of money because AEW, they were sucking up everybody in these big ass contracts because they didn't want them to go to AEW at that
Yes.
time.
Yes.
So they were like giving guys like 350, 400 something $1,000. And then like, holy shit, like these contracts were huge,
Oh yeah.
which is great for the wrestlers, which is great because, with Tony Khan starting up AEW the way he did, now people have a place to go. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Now you have a bargaining tool. You have a bargaining, you're not the only game in town, which is great for the talent.
Great. WCW was that bargaining chip for so long, and then just there was no bargaining chip. Once you eat up ECW and
Right.
WCW, well, where do you go? There was Impact Wrestling, TNA, but they didn't have the money that WCW had. They don't have the money Tony Khan certainly has either. He's a
Right.
billionaire, and
Right.
so is his father, and they own
Right.
so many franchises. So
Right.
good for
Lots of
them.
football
And
teams, right?
yeah, they own a lot. I know they're going to Wembley Stadium in
Yep.
August, and as
Yeah.
we're talking right now, they already on their pre-sale sold 35,000 tickets, and that to me
Nice.
is very
That's yeah, I heard
impressive.
that. I heard
And
that.
that's just the pre-sale. They haven't
That's
even
it.
gone on sale to the general public yet.
Right, right.
So we'll see how that plays out in the next few days, few weeks, because I imagine there's going to be random negative stories put out there by some people who work for other
Right.
companies to try to
Right.
tear down positive energy. But we'll have to see how that goes. But are you retired? Are you officially retired? Because I know you were
No, no,
involved with
I'm
Ric Flair's
just
last match.
no, kind of semi-retired here. I'm still working here and there, so let's see what happens. So I'm just working, kind of semi-retired, not really giving. I got a couple more good years left in me, and then more or less, and still doing seminars and stuff like that, and podcasts and stuff. And I do podcasts for ad-free shows, like with Conrad Thompson.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
good
nice.
old Conrad. I love
He's
me
been,
some
yeah,
Conrad.
he's employed me for almost 3 years, man, doing podcasts. I never thought. I was like, you want me to do podcasts? I'm like, what do you want me to do? He's like, I want you to tell your fucking stories.
Of
I'm
course,
like, he's like, you got 35 years of stories. Here I am, almost 3 years doing podcasts for him every month. So
outstanding.
it's really nice, and he's employed me for that, and it's been nice of him to do that. And then he's always employed me. Like, he called me right away. He said, "Hey, Rick wants you to do his last match and this and that." So he gets me booked a lot and he keeps me busy. So it's nice. And I'm doing signings. I'm doing some matches here and there and stuff like that. So it is what it is. So just kind of enjoying Florida life, really.
Oh, enjoy that nice weather. I used to
Yeah.
live in Florida and it was beautiful.
Nice.
Boston's one thing versus Florida. But the fact that you work with Conrad, I love him so much. I've interviewed him a few different times and
Right.
the ad-free show team,
Yeah.
such great talent, Jeff Jarrett, Arn Anderson,
Yeah. Yeah.
Bruce Pritchard. It's funny is when Bruce Pritchard and Conrad started their podcast, which feels like a lifetime ago,
Right.
Bruce didn't work for the WWE. So he's feeling
No.
like he was like an open book. He would say
Right.
anything. He would do impressions of anybody.
Right. Right.
It was amazing. It was like rated R. Bruce Pritchard. He
Right.
used to do this thing, Morning Deuce with Bruce, where he would sit on Facebook and talk about taking a shit while talking about wrestling. But then once he got rehired, boy, did he run out of time to have fun on that
Zip it.
podcast? Because
Zip
he
it, boy.
suddenly he's like, "Hi, I'm Bruce Pritchard. I'm so tired." I still love the show.
True.
I still love something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson. But boy, if you listen to the episodes before he got rehired, the
Right.
ones,
Right.
his energy level has changed a bit because
He
of
was
just
fired
things,
up.
the
Yeah.
things he could say and the things he can't say now.
Love some Bruce Pritchard, man.
Oh, me too.
And what a
But
character hitting back in his days.
oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God. Brother
Bro-
Love. I mean, that was one of the
Brother
best
Love.
characters. I loved it.
those
You know?
those puns in the 80s and early 90s with like
Yeah.
Mr. Perfect and Rick Rude and Jake the Snake and Brother Love,
Yep.
like the
Right.
way they spoke in their cadence with their
Yeah.
promos was
Yeah.
on T. Bruce Bar Beefcake for 30 seconds would talk about cutting and strutting, but also somehow weave in how he's going to beat you in a match
Yeah.
later on this evening. It was
Yeah.
amazing. I'm like, what
Was
the hell?
amazing.
He just taught me about barber skills in 30 seconds, but yet he also told me he's going to beat the genius tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how he did it, but he did it, and I'm here for it. But it was a great
good.
time, and I know you've had an amazing journey over 3 decades in the wrestling business, and I have to say this has been an honor and a privilege because for so long, referees were talked about on commentary with their full names, with
Right.
emphasis on the importance
Right.
of a referee, and even the fact that you used to call it the purse money. Why are we winning matches? Why are we here to fight? The purse money. And then one day they just stopped mentioning referees' names. They stopped talking about
Zip
it's
it.
actually
Yep.
about purse money. They stopped talking about timekeepers. It was,
Yeah.
and to me, that lost a bit of it because as a referee, as a timekeeper, as a commentary member, your
Mhm.
characters, you're part of the show. And the fact that you weren't talked about for so long makes me upset. But I have to say, it's been an honor talking to you today.
Yeah.
Mike Chioda, one of the greatest referees of all time. Again, he's talking about his Conrad Thompson. He's on the Ad Free Show team.
Yeah.
Check out his podcast. Check out everything he's doing because you are amazing. And I want to say again, I'll say it one more time. An honor and a
Appreciate
privilege
that.
talking to you today here on 10 Count. I have been Steve Fall. He has been Mike Chioda. We had a great time chit-chatting away. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.
Man,
Bye-bye.
Thank you for the kind words, Steve.